The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962. With that, I hand the meeting over to the chair.
Hi. Welcome to the December meeting of the Boston Disability Commission Advisory Board. My name is Olivia Richard, and I am the chair, and I am from Brighton. Meeting is called to order. Let's start with some introductions. Zari.
This is Andrea with the commission. I know Zari had put in the chat that she's not feeling well, so I don't know that she's able to introduce herself and say that she's here, but we've seen her and she did say something in the chat.
Okay, cool. Ducia?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dusia Lebovskaya, and I'm secretary, and I'm in Boston, specifically Mission Hill. Thank you.
Excellent. Paul?
Hi, my name is Paul Karen. I live in the West End, Beacon Hill area, and advisory board member, and work at the BPDA and Laborers Local 151. Thank you.
Wesley?
Hi, everyone. Wesley Ireland here, signing through a sign language interpreter, and I'm an advisory board member, and I live in the North End. Everyone.
Yeah, a few more things, okay.
Yardley?
Hello, everyone. I'm Yardley Sanchez, an advisory board member. I am a Dorchester resident, and I'd like to apologize for my absence from the board these past couple of months. I was going through a transition. I'm no longer at the City of Boston in my prior role, but I am now at the Boston Education Development Fund, and I'll still keep bringing these issues that persons with disabilities live with in relevant areas. And I want to thank you all for the work that you all do. Thank you.
No problem. Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, you're muted, so if you're introducing yourself, we can't hear you.
Yes, thanks. I knew I was muted. I just was having a little bit of difficulty there. Hello. I'm Elizabeth Dean Clower, Vice Chair of the Advisory Board, and I live in Back Bay, and I will participate in as much of tonight's meeting as I'm able to, but at a certain point, I anticipate that I'll have to not be present for the entire meeting. Thank you.
Understandable. So what we'll do is we'll take our vote, the approval of the October and November minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the October and November minutes?
I first.
Okay, second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was a support
Oh, okay.
by Wes.
Okay, cool. The motion passes. The minutes are approved. All right, let's have our program presentation if they're here.
So I want to ask, I think our presentation from Me Too Music might be on the phone. I'm not sure if that's you, Caroline. Person calling in, 857. I know that she had a time commitment, so I wanted to make sure Caroline was able to present first, but
Yeah.
okay, assuming that's not, we have our second presentation, our department presentation. Oh, it's Consetta. Okay, great. So then we will kick off with our department presentation from the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics. Do you want me to share your slides, or do you want to share them?
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to share them. Sorry. It's,
You share my screen.
just pulling them up here. Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight and for your time. My name's Yo. I'm from the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics. And I apologize. I feel like I got to give a disclaimer. I'm still under the weather here. So my presentation will be sponsored by my Star Market brand cough drops and honey lemon tea over here. If my voice gives out during the presentation, I appreciate you all hanging with me. So my name's Yo. I work for the Office of New Urban Mechanics. If you haven't heard of us, we're a small team, a civic research and design lab that works with different departments on small projects to make the city safer and more accessible and more fun. We've worked on the Boss 311 reporting app and the truck side guard ordinance to protect cyclists, and Project Oscar, the community composting program. Tonight, I wanted to speak to you all about something that feels a little bit like it's out of the Jetsons, which is the sidewalk delivery robots. In short, a company has come to us wanting to operate small robots that travel on sidewalks to deliver food. And we see it as a technology which is sort of becoming more popular in cities. So we want to get ahead of it and regulate it safely and thoughtfully. But we're particularly interested in the experiences of people with disabilities and how we regulate these devices, the robots on sidewalks, in a way that keeps people safe and unstressed. So if it's all right, I'll go through a couple of these slides now to give folks a background about what the devices are like, and then I'd love to open it up and ask your thoughts. So sharing here, just want to make sure this is up. Now, set, I hope.
If you're having difficulty, I can share. I have them pulled up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for that delay. Great. So this company called Starship Robot came to us wanting to operate in the Fenway area. But beyond Starship, this industry of delivery devices is growing very fast. It seems that states are hurrying to draft and pass legislation around them. So I'll start off giving an overview about what the devices are and why they're becoming popular, then briefly talk about the legal precedents and what's been happening in regulation around the country. And then we can get into how we're thinking about regulating them, and that's where I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, sidewalk robots, the legal language for them is personal delivery devices, or PDDs, and they're small electric-powered autonomous devices that have a storage compartment. So you can put food, drinks, medicine, whatever else inside it, and close the lid, and they autonomously navigate to their programmed destination to deliver it. They navigate by using a bunch of different sensors, distance cameras and radar, and they use machine learning to interpret what they're sensing in their environment and react to it in a way that complies with what's supposed to happen on the sidewalk. Usually a human remote operator is monitoring the device to oversee and to step in if anything goes wrong. Here are some of the most prominent devices on the market. The Starship robot and the KiwiBot deliver mostly food, and then the Amazon Scout delivers food in small packages. These are all about 2 to 2.5 feet tall and under 2 feet wide. They weigh 100 pounds or less, and they can carry cargo up to 50 pounds. Excuse me. Then there are bigger delivery devices like the FedEx Roxo on the side there, which is designed to deliver FedEx packages. And the Roxo is much larger. It's almost 5 feet tall. It weighs 200 pounds and can carry 100 pounds cargo. These devices generally move 3 to 5 miles an hour on the sidewalk, but they have the capability, some of them, to travel on roadways and move up to 15 miles an hour. So there's a hope that these could be useful for people with mobility impairments, but it seems like so far the main reason that they've become popular in different cities is that they have this positive environmental impact. As opposed to people delivering food in cars, the devices can deliver with no carbon emissions. They don't cause congestion on the roads or in loading zones. And especially during COVID, they've become more popular because they're a way for deliveries to avoid close contact between people. In the past few years, more and more states have been trying to figure out what to do with these and how to legislate them. So there's been legislation in around 32 states now. It's passed in a little over half of those. A bill went into Massachusetts legislature this past February. It didn't pass. It had very broad language, big language. But what's happening in the majority of these states in their legislations is that they're establishing some guidelines and leaving it open for municipalities to regulate things farther using ordinances. So that's what we're interested in figuring out how to put together. And because this is new technology and sort of new territory, the legislations are borrowing from each other a lot, trying to figure out what's best. There's an ongoing debate about whether the devices should be classified as vehicles or as pedestrians. And a bunch of states have deemed them pedestrians, even giving them pedestrian rights. And this helps ensure that they're bound to comply with traffic regulations, but it also makes things, actually confusing legally and otherwise. So there's been pushback in a number of cities. This picture is from 2019. This is the early version of the FedEx robot making a delivery on the street. And this caused a big uproar. New York quickly banned them and reprimanded FedEx. More recently, cities have started welcoming them in. Detroit started an initiative where KiwiBots, another device, are delivering exclusively from local small businesses to areas around Detroit. And a lot of the action that's been happening has been going on university campuses. So this company, Starship, that came to us, their main business model is working with universities. They strike a deal with the campus food distributor, like Sodexo, and then there's no cost for the university itself. And universities are generally easier, less complicated, like topographies to deliver on. So originally, they started on flat campuses in Texas and some in California. So the good part about the devices is that they make it easier for people to get food or items. Medicine hasn't become a common delivered service yet, but it could soon. And that they don't harm the environment in the process. And for people with disabilities, there's also the example, which is shown in the Starship Robot promo video also, that it can conserve wheelchair battery power and make getting food more convenient. So some concerns are that things could go wrong. There could be mechanical issues, devices stopping on the street, excuse me. There have been cases where the device collided with a car and the car owner couldn't get comped by insurance. Excuse me. I'll have the next copped up. But maybe the most interesting for us is that there have been incidents like a case in Pittsburgh in 2019 where a device blocked the curb cut as an individual was crossing the street in her wheelchair. Excuse me. And it effectively prevented her from getting back onto the sidewalk in her wheelchair. When this happened, the company took their devices offline and did some reworking, but there's potentially continuing problems there. And certainly there's questions about how supportive the companies are of people with mobility disabilities when these incidents happen. And so this gets at the wider issue, the wider concerns, which is that these devices, they take up space on sidewalks and roadways. When there's not much space to get by, that can cause a problem for people using wheelchairs or other assistive devices. Most of the devices, the robots, have flashers, flashing lights, and a couple of reflective tags, but there's still concerns about them being visible because they're so small and low to the ground. When they're crossing the street, the devices have alarm sounds that they make, which are programmed to sound very similar to crosswalk signs, to make almost a very similar sort of chirping sound. But, it's unclear how, how people would be able to tell which, that the sounds are coming from the devices. And then there could be limitations in the data. That the devices have been trained on to navigate. So if a device hasn't been trained to recognize a certain kind of cane, then it might not know how to move around it, and it could just stop, and that could cause an issue for someone, walking on the sidewalk. So this is the area, the Fenway area, that this company Starship is interested in operating in. It covers the colleges of the Fenway and the edge of the Longwood Medical area. So just go over this briefly. What we're thinking so far is that we'd like to try a pilot to test out how these devices would work, but we want to regulate it very carefully. And so we're thinking that there could be an application and a review process, and then a license for any company that wanted to operate these. So the review process would have some parts. That first an application would come in. Then what we'd be curious about is in the area they want to operate in, how wide are the sidewalks? What do we know about pedestrian traffic there? And the demographics and how many units would be operating there. Then we're curious about the device itself. What size would it be? We'd be looking at just allowing the smallest units. And then a lot of things about how the device operates. How quickly would it be going? What time of day would it be operating? And then we want to know that the company itself that's operating these meets certain standards. So do they have good insurance? What are their privacy and their data policies? The last part of this review process will be checking the company's public engagement process. Are they engaging with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities? If you all would be interested, are they engaging with the advisory board? Are they talking with neighborhood councils, pedestrian advocacy groups? And are they incorporating that feedback and actually changing? And the last part that I'd like to include or just mention is that we're really curious about how this could actually have a good or like a social good or a benefit here. Obviously, you know, there's ways that these could be an obstruction and a sort of challenging thing on the sidewalk. So we're curious if the companies could, you know, provide something that would actually benefit the people, especially people with disabilities. Would they be able to map sidewalks in a way that would improve accessibility, that sort of thing? So thank you very much. I'd love to open it up to some questions. The particular things we're really interested in hearing about are your first reactions, what you think of these, what you think might be social goods or positive things we could ask of these of operating companies, and other things that might be difficult or challenging for people with disabilities in interacting with these devices. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. I'd love to open it up. Stop sharing here too.
Okay, question time. Ducia, go ahead.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you very much, Joe. Yeah, this is Ducia, by the way. I have a few questions about your device.
Yeah.
So I know that you don't have right now you don't have yet a license in Massachusetts, which just makes sense. It still has to they have to first get to know this device.
Mm-hmm.
While I was looking at it, I mean, I saw a couple of pictures that stood out to me. Got two other questions. The first is how, who is going to, will it belong to people with disabilities? Are they going to have that device, or does that device individually belong to companies that provide services and they just put the product into that device, so that it goes on its own kind of to the client? That's my first question.
Yeah, thank you. So it's the second one. It would be owned by the company, and they have the relationship with the university. So it would be the company basically rents them to the university food distributor, and then the university food distribution service would send them out, and people could order them like you would order from another kind of food delivery app. And they would, as opposed to, you know, a person driving in a car delivering Grubhub or Uber Eats, it would be this device coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. And the second question is probably, I have two questions, but they could be probably put into one question. The next question I have is, if someone is blind or legally blind, or if they cannot, there are a lot of people, they either have a caregiver or they live independently, or how does someone who can't see, for legally blind or who has mobility issues, how could they open it or know where to how do they do it? Is there a system for that?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know for opening. I know that when when someone who's blind or legally blind is walking on the street, the robots are trained to stop or move out of the way as soon as they detect an assistive device or a cane or something like that, in order to to sort of open up the sidewalk more for the person. But actually interacting and opening up the device to get the food, I don't know. And we'll have to ask the ask the company that, because that seems like it would be a very important one. I know that you use whatever app they, whatever app the university food distributor is using. You use that app, and then you have a code or something in the app, and that triggers the device to open. But I'm not sure if there's also, if there's like an additional process where you have to kind of manually open it up. I assume so. I'll write that down. Ask them.
Yeah, I think the app actually makes now more sense to
Yeah.
mention this. Just
Yeah.
putting it out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Wes, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Hello, Yo. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm really glad that you are here providing this presentation, and I do hope you feel better. I have a
Thank
couple of questions for you that hopefully you can answer. First of all, I've looked at several PDDs, some of the pictures that you've shown here, and I'm a bit concerned about that all of the models that I've seen so far, they don't seem very sort of deaf friendly. I know that you talk about the Stargate model with the orange flag. I'm just thinking in terms of for people who are walking along, and if they're not able to hear, I mean, they might, so they see the flag, that'll be helpful, but I'm thinking there would need to be an increased sort of alerting system that's not just by sound, but maybe like a very bright strobe light or something more supplemental even to a flag, because I'm just thinking about how this might impact deaf and hard of hearing people in the environment, because they're not, we're not going to be alerted by some sort of a sound, right? So I don't know, I haven't seen anything like that in any of these models I've seen.
Yeah, thank you. Wes, firstly, thanks for saying that, and thanks, that's a great question. From what I've heard so far, the devices have just the reflective flags and then flashing lights. I don't know the brightness of them. I think that in some states, legislation has required that the lights are visible from a distance of 500 feet, but I don't know if they're just steady, consistent lights as opposed to flashing on and off. But can I ask you, what would be, like, in design terms, what would be a design that would be better and more sort of visible and standing out? Because this would be the great kind of thing for us to put in regulation and, and require the companies to do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if that were to be something that would be approved in Boston, I would prefer that there'd be sort of a maximum level of iridescence of the light, like some sort of a very strong iridescence, as highly iridescent as is possible. And then sort of my second is really a second part question is, you're talking about the height of the device. You said one of them was actually 2 feet. Well, what's the width? Because I'm just thinking about, like, what are the dimensions that a potential PDD device would have in terms of the width and the amount of space it takes up even on a sidewalk?
Yeah, absolutely. Just around 2 feet also. So usually around 2 to 2.5 feet tall and about 2 feet across. Several of the different models and brands are all right around that size. And yeah, there's a slight range in terms of exact inches, but the main ones are right around there. And the other thing that we're trying to think about in regulating them is not just the size and in terms of dimensions and the weight, but also the speed and combination of that. So we're thinking about like the force of this sort of device as it's moving, how it would, how it would be if it ran into a car or a tree, or hopefully not, but a person. So Yeah, so we're trying to regulate that part too. Yeah. Are there particular things that you think about the height or the size?
No, not necessarily. I'm just thinking, at least from my viewpoint, I'm just thinking about the amount of space that the device takes up on the sidewalk, and the impact of people who are actually using the sidewalk, and particularly people who are wheelchair users in that space, and others in that space. And the number of people in particular, like the volume or the density of people on the sidewalk. So, yeah,
Yeah.
within a given hour or time of day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the sidewalk width in the areas that, these devices would potentially be operating is one thing we're really trying to think about. To make sure they're not sort of crowding spaces or taking up so much space on a sidewalk that people aren't able to comfortably and safely pass. Yeah, thank you.
Conchetta
Thank you.
from the public?
Hi. Yes, I have a couple questions. First of all, maybe I missed it, but how is it navigating? Is it using a satellite or cameras?
Thank you. Yeah, they're using cameras. They're using computer vision. So it's like a machine learning setup where the devices basically have a computerized version of the map of the area that they operate inside them, and they use cameras to detect general objects around them as they're moving, and then kind of overlay that or compare that to the map that they have ingrained. And so using those images that they're picking up from the cameras, they figure out where they are in the map and, when to turn left, when to, wait and then cross the street, that sort of thing.
Like echolocation, like what the bats use. So I thought of it when somebody mentioned the height from the ground as to how wide a vision it would have. Let me move on to my other question.
Yeah.
How does it cross the street? Because the sidewalks are not continuous entities, so does it observe traffic lights?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. They're trained, the devices are trained to obey all traffic signals and to stop. I think even if it's to double check this, but I think to stop at every crosswalk or every curb cut, no matter what, before they keep going. Oftentimes, as I understand it from hearing from these companies, oftentimes when they reach a crosswalk or curb cut, then the human remote operator is pinged, and then that remote operator sort of taps into their cameras to navigate themselves across the crosswalk, and then the robot picks back up using its own navigation system. Yeah.
Okay, so I have two very short questions.
Yeah.
Possibly one might be an observation. You said there's a bill before the Massachusetts legislature. If you do have that information and you could provide the bill number or something and put it in the chat, that would be great. Save, lazy people like me the time to go on the website and look for it. But I personally have a preference that in Massachusetts, I would prefer if this is not treated as a pedestrian, even though it is allowed access on the sidewalk. I would personally prefer it not be treated as a pedestrian. But my final point is that also don't forget in the Longwood area to talk with the schools like Latin Academy and the hospitals as well, because they use the sidewalks for gurneys and a lot of people moving in and out with wheelchairs and so on. Okay, I am finished, but if you do have the bill number or any other information that would make it easy for us to access, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those points and those questions. I don't have the bill number right in front of me. A bill went up and then didn't pass, failed, and then there's another one which I think was pending. I can find it, and it's all right. I could reach out and share it afterwards if it would be all right. But I can find the exact one if you're interested. I also, by the way, am with you in that I think it makes much more sense to classify them as vehicles, also because they're more like vehicles, and because the insurance process like that makes much more sense. But yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you can send information to Ms. Richards, I'm sure she will make sure that everyone gets it. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you. Oh, and I think Chris Carter is here from the Office of New Urban Mechanics. Just shared that in the chat also. Thanks, Chris.
No.
Zari has a question. She's wondering about how easy it is to retrieve packages for someone who uses a wheelchair. And also, is there a date when this is going to be rolled out?
Thank you. For ease of retrieving packages, I don't know. I'm not sure. My understanding of the process is just, that the app that's sort of set up through the food distributor company, you get a code through the app, and then the device is somehow pinged, and that helps that signals to the device to open up. But I'm not sure about that, Chris. Not sure if there's other stuff we can look into that. For time, I'd be really interested to hear what people think, what you think, what others think about when would be good. We were just talking about this earlier, trying to limit it, and talking with someone else about the issues that it might cause people if it were during snowy months. When sidewalks can already have certain space taken up. But yeah, I'd love to hear if you have ideas of time, duration, or time of the year. Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna cap it here.
Okay.
Andrea can get things to you if anyone's got feedback for you that's more in depth than we can get into here with the time restriction we're on.
Totally. Well, thank you. But this is great. Thank you all for these questions and these points. I think this is already a lot to start bringing back to these possible companies. So thank you. Thanks for having me in for this time.
Thank you for your presentation. Let's move on to the program presentation, Me Too Music for Mental Health by Caroline Whiddon.
Thank you, Olivia. Can everyone hear me all right? I'm in a strange place tonight. I'm actually calling in from Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm in a gymnasium where we're about to have a rehearsal. So I hope this all goes as planned. Again, my name is Caroline. I'm the executive director and co-founder of Me Too. I use she, her pronouns, and I live with diagnoses of depression, anxiety, and panic disorder. I'm here to talk to you for just a few minutes about a great event that we have coming up with Me Too. But first, I want to introduce the organization to those of you who may not already know us. Me Too is the world's only classical music organization created for musicians living with mental illness and the people who support them. The idea for Me Too was inspired by the man who would become my husband when I met him back in 2010. He had just experienced extreme stigma and, in fact, discrimination on the job because he is living with bipolar disorder. He is a world-class orchestral conductor. He came to me at that time and said, I can't face going back into the regular orchestra workforce where I might be stigmatized and discriminated against again. I want to create a safe artistic workspace for me and for other people like me. And that's where the idea for Me Too was born. Of course, we kind of predated the hashtag Me Too movement, in case that's a little confusing for folks. I understand that. Another absolutely vital and fabulous movement. But for us, we've stuck with our Me Too name because we found the power in sharing our own stories of living with these mental illnesses and talking with other people and finding acceptance and support in our community. The real secret behind Me Too is that we're able to be stigma-free by not having any auditions for participation. We do not charge any fees to anyone who wants to participate, and we promise a supportive and welcoming rehearsal and performance environment. So those are really the principles by which we operate. It was also very important to us that our organization make room for people with and without a diagnosis, because our aim is to erase the stigma. And we knew we couldn't do that unless we were sharing our space with people who don't themselves live with a diagnosis, but are eager to learn about the realities of living with mental illness. So it works out that about half of our musicians are living with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, addiction, trauma, anxiety, etc. And the other half are there to learn and support. We have a full orchestra in Vermont, which is where we started Me Too, but as of about 5 years ago, we are based in and headquartered in Boston. We have administrative offices in the Fuller Mental Health Building in Boston, and we are currently rehearsing in Dorchester, where we have a 60-member ensemble that rehearses every Monday evening. And I'm here tonight because we want to tell you about a really exciting event. We are approaching now our 10th anniversary as an organization. Thank you for sharing this slide, Andrea. And we decided that despite the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic when, for the most part, we could not even rehearse together, and then we could only rehearse as string players wearing masks, it's been a very long and difficult road back to be able to play as full ensembles, but we have returned. We are all fully vaccinated, and we are rehearsing and preparing for this big event in January. We are billing the event as Stigma-Free at Boston Symphony Hall. And of course, when we talk about stigma as our organization, we are top line talking about mental health stigma, but it's very important to us that we also be universally inclusive of everyone, no matter what disability they might be living with. And so our goal with this event is to welcome everybody from the greater Boston community into Symphony Hall. Granted, this is a facility, a world-class facility that some people actually are probably intimidated by, and we recognize that. It can be scary to go to a classical music concert. That's a place where some people are afraid that the rules might prohibit them from being welcomed or having a good time. And we're going to strip away those rules. We're going to encourage everyone to relax and not worry about when they clap or if they need to get up and move around a little bit. This is going to be a free event, so we want everybody in the community to have access and be able to attend. And we'll be taking advantage, of course, of all of the accessibility options that are available at Boston Symphony Hall in terms of assisted listening devices, the wheelchair seating. We will have Braille programs available upon request. I personally want to see some service animals in this audience, or I will be greatly disappointed. I will feel like we have not reached our people. So we want to make it accessible to everybody. And we've been partnering with several community partners. I hope you can possibly see this on the slide or read this. The event is being sponsored by McLean Hospital, but we've been meeting with our community partners at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the Massachusetts Cultural Council, the the Austin Riggs Center, which is a wonderful mental health facility out in the western part of the state, Dee Dee's Cry, which is a suicide prevention organization largely there for the Black community based out of Roxbury, and many other community partners who are informing us about what we can do to make this free event accessible and welcoming to all members of the community. It was important to me that we present this idea to you as part of the Disability Commission because we would love to have your advice on what we can do to attract audience members and truly make this a welcoming and celebratory event for every member of our community. And if possible, we'd love to have your buy-in as a community partner to potentially help us spread the word about this, to attend the event, and again, just provide us with any advice you would have about making Symphony Hall and this program of great music and storytelling accessible to every member of our community. And I'm a little short on time, so I'm going to stop my presentation there, but I would love to, if anybody has any questions or any immediate feedback on that, I'd love to interact a bit.
Does anybody have any questions?
I see that I'm going to say Zari, and I apologize if that's an incorrect pronunciation, but Zari has asked about the link to the event, and I will tell you that I am still working with Symphony Hall to get the tickets. Although they are free, they will be available for reservation through the Boston Symphony Orchestra website. They're not available yet. We expect that to happen within the week. But you can find the event and additional information about the event on our website, which is Me2 Music. That's ME, the numeral 2, music.org.
I wanted to throw in one thing, just so you know, some people won't bring their service animals to loud events like that. Just because they want to preserve the animal's hearing or the animal gets nervous. So don't be offended if you don't see a lot of guide dogs, a lot of service dogs.
Understood, Olivia. Thank you for that. I will tell you that it's become such a personal thing for me because, in part because we have a service dog that sits in the French horn section of our orchestra in Vermont, if you can believe it or not. So I'm quite used to Philo being there for rehearsals, but I appreciate that input.
Yeah.
Understood. Well, if nobody else has any questions or thoughts immediately, then I'm happy to just to have had this time with you to tell you about the event. I'll make sure that Andrea receives more information as the details become firmed up. And again, I would invite you as a commission, if you have a chance to sort of consider whether or not we could actually list you as a participating community partner on this and perhaps help to share maybe through your listserv news of this free community performance. We would be really honored to have your partnership in this event and your help in spreading the word. Thank you all.
Well, that's something we'd have to vote on.
Understood.
Yeah.
I so appreciate your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
And you have a good day.
Good night, everybody.
All right. So let's move on to the chair's report. My report is quick. There's going to be a town hall from the OneCare Implementation Council on OneCare. They want to hear how it's going for you. That will be December 14th from 10 to 12 p.m. or from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the sign up is https://bit.ly/register-IC-town-hall. And
Letters capitalized because that does make a difference for Bitly.
yes, register is the R in register is capitalized, IC is capitalized, T is in town hall is capitalized, and H in town hall is capitalized.
Thanks, just want to make sure folks get the right Bitly and not somebody else's town hall.
Exactly. This week is National Influenza Awareness Week, I think. Something like that. I saw it on DDS's website. One thing we know is this year the flu is hitting people really hard. And you can get your flu shot as well as your COVID shot. You can get them together. You can go to vaccines.gov, and it has the flu vaccine lookups for all the different types. The regular, the 65 plus, enhanced, the egg-free, and the nasal spray options. All you have to do is enter your zip code, and it'll give you the closest active flu clinic places. And that's all I've got. Oh, no, it's not. The special election for East Boston, for the state district that lies within East Boston is coming up. That'll be on December 14th. So if you live in Eastie, it's time to vote.
I believe early voting has started for that.
Yeah.
If there's like the BCYF maybe, I can look it up, but it'll be on boston.gov/election.
Yes. And that's all I've got. So we'll move on to the member spotlight. Does anyone want to spotlight themselves tonight? Hearing none. Okay.
You gonna eeny, meeny, miny, moe it? Or do you want to skip it?
Yeah, I think we're gonna skip it. The commissioner's report. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Olivia. Nice try with the spotlight. We'll get everybody in the next year.
Yeah.
So good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Yardley, it's very nice to see you. Welcome back. So I have a few things to talk over with you, beginning with the mayoral transition. When we last met, Mayor Wu had been elected but not sworn in. So she was sworn into office on Tuesday, November 16th in the City Council chamber. And for any of you who tuned into her speech, you may have been happy to hear her talk about the upgrades in the City Council chamber that made it completely ADA compliant. And many of you on this call know about those upgrades because you've experienced them when the City Council allowed us to hold our meetings in the chamber. And we hope to get back to it very soon, but it was a great initiative that Mayor Wu oversaw as president of the City Council. So we know that she has accessibility in the forefront of her mind. She will be having a larger inauguration on January 3rd, and we will update board members about potential invitations. Also wanted to let you know restructuring that's happening in the city. We're currently in the Health and Human Services Cabinet, but that's going to be changing back to the Office of Human Services. When Mayor Menino was in place, OHS was separate from all the health-related agencies in the city, but Mayor Walsh combined them. Now Mayor Wu is going to switch all the health agencies back to BPHC. So our cabinet chief, Marty Martinez, who's done a great job over the last 4 years, he'll be leaving this week. And we don't have a permanent chief announced yet, but we will let you know when we do. Okay, then I have some updates on outdoor dining. All on-street dining will end on December 31st, except for the North End, which closed on November 1st. I don't know who wants to eat outside in snow and 30-degree weather, but apparently some people do because they still like it. But it will all be wrapped up at the end of this calendar year. The restaurants who we gave portable ramps to, they can keep them until further notice if they need them for the outdoor dining or if they have other uses. We're not going to be collecting them at this time. So if you're out and about in the community and anybody asks about it, you can share that information. Mayor Wu has given us a directive that she wants to establish a permanent outdoor dining program in the city of Boston. So we're working on the permanent policy right now that will begin in April of next year. And we're working with Inspectional Services, Public Works, BTD, the Public Improvement Commission, Economic Development, and the Licensing Board, because we know that all the permanent outdoor patio spaces will need to be fully compliant with the AAB and the ADA. And the PIC, the Public Improvement Commission, is the city board that kind of goes through all the regulations. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it easier for restaurants to get through the whole process, because it can be very time-consuming, very complicated, and very expensive. So stay tuned for more details on that. Okay, so then another report I have, which is very top of mind, is on vaccines and booster shots. So Mayor Wu appointed a COVID-19 advisory committee this week. For those of you who didn't see it, our head of the Boston Public Health Commission is the leader of it, and it's made up of different doctors and researchers and restaurateurs and people from the community. So they're going to be the ones who are studying data and advising the mayor on different initiatives around COVID. I'm sure you've all heard about the Omicron variant, and the message that we're hearing is that it requires us to be vigilant but calm. So that means not to rush to conclusions about dangers, but to remain safe. And we know that vaccinations are the best tool we have right now to prevent death, severe illness, and spread of coronavirus. The Boston Public Health Commission is running 7 family clinics in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, Hyde Park, and Roslindale, which are all underserved communities that have been hard hit by the virus. A family clinic means that any resident over age 5 can get a first or second dose, or a booster. First, second, and third doses of the booster are available for anyone over 18. These clinics are walk-in, you don't need an appointment, so you're welcome to go yourself, bring your family, and get whichever dose of the vaccination that you need. The city's also holding larger capacity one-time clinics. This one tomorrow in City Hall. Mayor Wu is getting her booster shot at 12:30. This is also a walk-in, open to all, no appointment needed. There's one on December 11th at the Vine Street Community Center and on the 18th at Melnia Cass Recreational Complex on MLK Jr. Boulevard. You can find the rest of the clinics on boston.gov and click on COVID-19 vaccine information. And then always remember to stay safe. Wear masks, practice social distancing, have ventilation if you have people over, get tested, and please stay safe during the holidays. So then I want to update everybody on the captions ordinance. We held our hearing last month. It was well attended, and I reported on that at the last commission meeting. But I wanted to share some important updates. Councilor Flynn, who was our lead sponsor, was elected as president of the city council last week. So big congratulations to Councilor Flynn. I'm really happy to hear about this because he's a neighbor of mine who I grew up with, and he's also a disabled vet. So he takes disability and accessibility issues very seriously. So congratulations to new president of the city council, Ed Flynn. So we will be in touch with him to convene a working group to create the program, and we're still gathering information on that. Last week, Wes shared some information with us about movie theaters in New York City. Their captions ordinance requires movie theaters to have open captions on movies. I believe it's 2 movies per week, but maybe Wes can give some details about that afterwards. Some of the action items that we're working on in my department, we're going to be developing an outreach plan for businesses and the disability community. We have a new outreach and engagement specialist starting next week, so that will be one of their first tasks. We need to lay out the program parameters, including the formal complaint and resolution process. And we're going to work on creating tools with instructions on how to enable captions and a list of resources for business owners. Other city departments are working with us to reach out to businesses, nonprofits, and other Title II entities to give them information. And they're going to work with us to create an implementation plan and establish a timeline for launching. And then finally, I just have some general updates. We held our meeting last week with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare to talk about a national policy of eliminating income and asset limits for people on Medicaid so they can go to work. I know that we held our community access monitor training last week, and a few weeks before that. It was 2 sessions. Thank you to all who attended, and I hope you've all got your certificate through email. We're finishing up our Mass Rehab internship program next week. That was a series of 6 virtual webinars to help people with disabilities get linked to jobs in the city of Boston. We still have our bike outreach plan funding to spend. We're going to be looking at that in 2022 with our new outreach person. And then at this time of the year, we always think about commission elections. So I want to discuss it in January and think about having a vote in February or March. And we're still working to set up our meeting dates for next year and wanted to get input from everybody if Wednesdays still work. So you can email us and let us know. That's what works best for the cable office, so we're hoping to keep it on Wednesdays. And then my final update is on open jobs in our department. As I said a few minutes ago, we have a new outreach person starting on Monday, so we have a lot of projects for her to jump into. We're really excited. We're doing interviews for our parking program manager. This is the person who oversees all the accessible parking spaces in the city. So those interviews are wrapping up next week, and we hope to make an offer by the end of the year. And this is where I really need your help. We've been trying to hire an in-house ASL interpreter since October. We currently don't have any applications, and I think this is for a number of reasons. We know that ASL interpreters are in short supply. We also know that the ones that we currently work with all have jobs, so they haven't applied. But if you can, help us spread the word, because we would love to fill this position. And that wraps up my report, but you may have noticed for the last few months, I've been doing a deep dive into an emerging issue in the city. So this month, I'm going to talk to you about jobs. We've been holding a series of webinars, as I said, for Mass Rehab to link Boston residents with disabilities to city jobs. So I thought, with Michelle Wu now being inaugurated as mayor, she really is making a push to hire Boston residents with diverse backgrounds. So I wanted to bring our human resources office into this meeting to have them talk to you about this process. So this is a little brief segment on pathways to employment with the city of Boston. So Michelle Wu, our mayor, has pledged to make the city's workforce representative of all the city's residents. She's committed to promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion in her administration. She recognizes that disability issues are a main priority in the city, and she has a history of working on disability issues as a city councilor. She was the one who created the Language and Access Ordinance when she was in city council, and as I said earlier, she oversaw the renovation of the chamber for ADA access. The city currently has over 850 jobs posted, and Mayor Wu really wants you to work for the city. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, David Pena. He is the talent acquisition specialist for the city, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the process, because it's not always straightforward how to apply for a job with the city. It can be really complicated. So David's going to give you an overview of how this works for you, and hope that you can spread this information to your networks. David?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Gosch. My name again, David Pena. I work for the Office of Human Resources, and I'm a talent acquisition specialist, which translates to recruiter for the Office of Human Resources. So I just wanted to speak briefly about what I do and about job opportunities that are available at the City of Boston. But in addition to being available, at the city, there's also jobs that are available at the Boston Public Health Commission, at the Boston Planning and Development Agency, at the Boston Public Schools, and also Boston Housing and Boston Water and Sewer Commission. And each one of these institutions that I just spoke about will have their own website where you can apply for jobs. Next slide, please. So departments under the City of Boston's Human Resources Office. So there are multiple departments within Boston City Hall that are looking to hire. For instance, Boston Center for Youth and Families, Boston Parks and Recreation, the Public Works Department, and the Boston Public Library. They tend to be some of the larger employers at the city. So I would recommend looking at opportunities that are open with those departments. But I think looking at all opportunities for that matter would probably be a good thing. But those departments seem to be ones that tend to hire or have a lot of jobs open at the current time. The types of employment would be administrative, some professional jobs also may require a degree or some sort of license. And then there are jobs in the field, so on-site, community centers, neighborhoods, and parks. All of these jobs will be located at one of three locations, so either City Hall, 1010 Mass Ave, or Court Street. The majority will probably be City Hall based. So at this time, or at last count, there are 211 jobs currently available on the City of Boston's career site. I've been with the city for 7+ years, and I don't recall there ever being this many jobs. I don't ever remember counting, but I also don't remember, there's just a lot of jobs right now. So I'd like to think that there are some really good opportunities for folks out there, and I'm encouraging this community to apply. Next slide, please. So some of the other organizations or some of the other institutions, I guess underneath the City of Boston umbrella, the Boston Public Health Commission, it's bphc.org is the web address, and there are departments and services that are that could potentially have opportunities: violence prevention and trauma support, homeless services, parenting, pregnancy and families. These are just a few. Health, eating, and active living. The types of employment: case management and counseling, program and project management, administrative, budget and finance, just to name a few. There are 94 postings currently on their Career Center page. So I think that's obviously worth checking out as well. Those opportunities will be largely based at 1010 Mass Ave, or there are some other locations as well where the opportunities could be located, but it will state that in the when you look at the opportunity. So next slide, please. And then there's the Boston Planning and Development Agency, the BPDA is the acronym for that. The types of employment there would be real estate, technology, finance, workforce development. Majority of the jobs would be located at City Hall on the 9th floor, 43 Hawkins Street. There could be some there too, 7 Palmer Street, 22 Dry Dock Ave, and there are currently 19 jobs available. And the website address for The BPDA is bostonplans.org. Next slide, please. And the Boston Public Schools, so BPS, there are 122 schools across the city, and types of employment, hourly, custodians, lunch monitors, sped cab monitors, paraprofessionals, teachers, professionals, guidance counselors, and social workers when I say professional, managerial, program coordinators, project management, and analysts. The locations of the jobs would be based on where the school is located, so that's going to vary quite a bit. But there are currently 535 jobs open on the Boston Public Schools career site. So the web address for that is bostonpublicschools.org. So I encourage you to check that out as well. And next slide. Questions?
Can I just jump in for a moment?
Of course, yes.
Just to
Did
let
that kind of quickly, so.
Yeah, no, just, that was great. Thank you. It's a lot of information, and we will send this slide deck out to all the board members. But just to let the board members know that the city has a non-discrimination policy, so people with disabilities are encouraged to apply, and you can always request any reasonable accommodations for an interview if you get one, or for a job. So always keep that in mind. David has more information on that. If you have any questions, we can share David's email with you after the presentation.
Yep. And I think also, Commissioner Gosh, if there's, if there's someone that wants to come to apply to the Office of Human Resources or apply for opportunities at the Office of Human Resources, and they want to give me a heads up before they're coming, I can try to help them out in any way that they might need it in terms of applying at our offices and things like that. So.
That's a good point. I believe the only way to apply now is online. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. And then, so in our, you're absolutely right. And then in our office, in the OHR office, there are computers that folks can utilize. I believe there are 2 desktops.
So I just wanted to have this presentation to share this opportunity with people and hope that you'll spread it to your communities, because it can be hard to get a good job now with things going virtual. I will say that the city doesn't have a virtual work policy at this time, but we do know that we do a lot of great work. Working in public service is very beneficial, and it helps all our residents, it helps ourselves. The work that I do in this office certainly helps myself as well as the disability community. So it's a great field to think about if you're interested, and we welcome any questions and follow-up emails after tonight's meeting. Olivia, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you. So next it's announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
This is Wes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say hi, everyone. I had a follow-up on the commissioner's report regarding the captioning ordinance. I did have a comment, and the commissioner mentioned about 2 things. One is the situation, the ordinance in New York City related to the theaters, the movie theaters in New York, and then the other was, well, actually, let me talk about that one first. Sorry. I'll talk about the movie theaters first. There's a company by the name of AMC, the movie theater company, and they have announced open captions for all of their theater locations nationwide. And I'm not sure all of the theaters actually have open captions yet, but eventually it's coming. And I did take a look at the AMC Boston Commons site. And I'm only seeing maybe 1 or 2 shows that have open captions. but they're willing to do to offer private watching space or viewing space for people to watch with open captions. Secondly, in New York City, related to their ordinance, they just actually had a hearing on the compliance with the ordinance. And this means that I guess all of the theaters with 2 or more screens are required to have open caption for their shows. And then that includes both peak hours and off-peak hours where they show films. And in New York City, they're planning, currently right now, working with the AMC Corporation. And so with these 2 developments, I think there's something to be said where we might want to be making some considerations in the future for what we'd like to see happen here in Boston. So anyway, again, this is sort of an amendment to the discussion. Thank you.
Wes, I think those ideas are things we can bring to the working group. So we'll certainly invite everybody to participate once we get those dates. Just stay tuned and continue to bring us more information if you have it. But that's a great point we should discuss. And I know Carl is on the federal board that oversees communication access for people with disabilities of the FCC. So he would be a great addition to the working group too.
Absolutely. Good to hear that.
All right. Are there any other announcements of anything people want to share with? Okay, hearing none. Let's move to old business. The Mayor Wu letter.
Yes.
Andrea, where are we with that?
So, per the discussion from last month, I sent out a final draft just for folks' review. You've already voted on it, so you don't have to, but wanted to make sure everyone got one last chance to see it before I print it and walk it down to the 5th floor on your behalf this week. So that will be given to the mayor's office this week, but it was in the email packet for y'all to read.
Perfect. Okay. Any new business? Anybody got anything they want to propose? No? Okay, it's time for public input.
Okay, consider again. I don't know if you're aware that the MBTA is proposing putting central dedicated bus lanes on Blue Hill Avenue. It was in the banner of a couple weeks ago. So maybe it is something the commission might want to keep its eyes on, and the advisory board as well, keep their eyes on, because then you have to leave the sidewalk and cross the street and get to the middle of the street to access the bus. So there need to be pedestrian crossings, and maybe not just this narrow little one, but the wider one. Apart from that, I learned a lot. I was Googling One Care. I hadn't heard about One Care. And when I hung up, I'll Google Me Too Music, and it was very interesting with this this new vehicle, what PBD or whatever it's called. This is technology, so we'll see how it works out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for for your input.
Olivia, this is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, can we remind everyone who's speaking actually for communication access to identify themselves before they speak?
This is Olivia. Yes, we can.
Hi, it's,
Okay, yes, so the person who was speaking before, that was Concetta Paul, and I am just a member of the public. But the meetings are so interesting, so now I put them on my calendar.
Thank you, Conchetta.
It's Kristen McCosh again. I just wanted to say thank you, Conchetta, for the update on the T. I know that Jerry, our board member, sits on the board of what used to be RTAG. I can't remember the new name of it. But if you have any updates, please always feel free to share them. And also about the PDD, the robot, we're working very closely with the partners who are involved in it. So we will be keeping tabs on it. And you can be assured it's not just going to be released out into the city with no oversight or no rules and regulations. And the first implementation will certainly be a pilot. We're encouraging them to do it on a closed-off area like a college campus. It won't just be, like I said, released into the streets of downtown Boston with no warning and no oversight. So you can rest assured we'll be working on that. Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you.
This is Jerry again, Olivia. And thank you, Commissioner, for mentioning the T and the follow-up. And it is still RTAG. It's the Riders Transportation Access Group. They're the advocacy group that any person with a disability can outreach to have their voices heard around any transportation and any T-related issues that they have.
Is there a meeting with Judge King, or did that already happen?
That was this afternoon. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but his semi-annual meeting happened this afternoon. I'm sorry that we didn't include it in the electronic newsletters for this group, and I'll make sure that that doesn't happen again.
This is Andrea with the commission. Elizabeth is also on RTAG, if I'm correct, Jerry, and I know she wasn't able to stay all night tonight, but potentially she might have been there and can maybe update the advisory board in January.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can report back next month. If there were anything that I feel that this group should know about, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. Is there any other public input? No, hearing none. Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I can make the motion today.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Awesome. All right, we will see you in January.
Happy holidays, everyone.